we just witnessed a fascinating event in Jewish history. I know you see it every week, and the old expression that a miracle seen more than once ceases to be a miracle, but let's embrace it for a moment. What we had here first was the Torah reading, which is a custom well established to you. And then after the Torah reading was completed, we then read the Haftarah. What exactly is the Haftarah? The Torah reading we understand. Scroll is taken out, one of the sections from the 5 books of Moses is recited. This custom of taking the Torah out, subject to debate as to when it happened, but let's all say at the very least that the broad custom of taking the Torah out, exactly when it was to be read, how often it was read, what was read, not important. But that it dates back to the early stages of the rebuilding of the Second Temple, 2,500 years ago. What exactly is the Haftarah? A few things. Number one, it's not pronounced Haftorah. It is Haftarah. The difference between these two words are that the word Torah has a tav in it, and the word Haftarah has a tet. They are two entirely different words. And as you probably know, that the reading of the Haftarah is not in any way, shape, or form an excerpt from the 5 books of the Torah. Where does the text of the Haftarah come from? It is drawn from various chosen sections of the remainder of the Tanakh, either sections from the prophets or from different writings. There are 24 books that comprise the canon of the Hebrew Bible. When you excerpt the 5 books of Moses, that leaves 19 other books that we in theory would consider to be the remainder of the Hebrew Bible and things that would be drawn from the reading of the Haftarah. Okay, so where does the Haftarah come from, and why is it called the Haftarah? Once again, we don't have a lot of information with certainty of where this custom comes from, but we have some hints, to be sure. Number one, it clearly is not of the same age as the reading of the Torah. Why do we know this? Perhaps the simplest explanation would be that the Haftarah is not written in a scroll. It can be from anything printed. And so clearly, in terms of the antiquity of things, the writing of something on a scroll is representative of how old it is, because the scroll was the iPad of its time. It was portable, it was correctable, it was inexpensive, relatively. Unlike the other methods that people used to write things down in ancient times. I'm not going to go into that now, by the way. The other thing that is of interest is that there are a few different thoughts as to why and how we do it. Some people suggest, and this is a very traditional explanation, that at the same time the Torah was instituted in a regular schedule of being read, they also chose sections of the Haftarah to also be read. Sections that they felt would closely mirror the meaning of the Torah reading. Another interpretation, which is more modern, which comes by way of the German rabbi Samuel Foel Hirsch about 150 years ago, he says that the reason why we read the Haftarah was to poke a finger in the eye of certain sects of Judaism who said that the only parts of Judaism that are important are the ones that come from the Torah. There are many examples of this in Jewish tradition where we do things and we say things, or we don't say things, because they are an echo of a debate and argument that is thousands of years old. I'll give you a few examples. One, the lighting of Shabbat candles. Number two, that we do not say in synagogue any longer on a daily basis the recitation of the 10 Commandments. However, there's a 17th century rabbinic authority. His name is the Avudraham. The Avudraham says that the reason why we read the Haftarah, which can be explained from the name of it in and of itself. And that is, he says, that during the story of Hanukkah, when the Seleucid Empire tried to oppress the Jews by forbidding their observance of religion, and what was that? teaching Torah, Brit Milah, circumcision, and reading the Torah publicly. They forbade it. And so, the ancient rabbis of Jewish tradition instituted the reading of sections from the remainder of the Hebrew Bible that they felt communicated the message of that weekly Torah portion. Why is it called the Haftarah? Because it created a patar, it closed off, it replaced that which had been not permitted to do. The closing off of something. Almost like a replacement of something. Okay, with that in mind, I want to look at the Haftarah for this morning. This Torah portion and this Haftarah is screaming for us to look at. Because in the Torah portion we read of the book of perhaps the seminal, penultimate character in Jewish history, that being Jacob. And in the Haftarah we also read of the death of a seminal, perhaps penultimate of the personality in Jewish history, King David. We are known as the children of Israel, the children of Jacob. And the center of the homeland of the Jewish people is Ir David, the city of David, Jerusalem. They are these remarkable stories. And the joining of them together in Torah reading and Haftarah reading have similarities, but I don't want to talk about the similarities. I want to talk about the differences. Jacob dies as a man on his deathbed, and it creates this incredible image. I forget the medieval painter who had painted the scene of Jacob, on his deathbed, surrounded by his children, the 12 tribes, surrounded by the wives of his children, surrounded by his grandchildren. And Jacob brings forth this incredible final message to his family about what lies ahead and what they need to know. And very little of it is explicit. It's metaphoric, and it's also inspirational. By contrast, King David is on his deathbed this morning, and who is he surrounded by? Not many people, but apparently, at least the text tells us, it's just his son Shlomo Solomon. And what does he tell him? A few things. He says to him, when I die, V'yita ish, you'll be the man. Then he says to him, follow the Torah of the God of the people of Israel. Beautiful. Be a good Jew. And then what does he tell him to do? Settle accounts. Kill this person, kill that person. Kill this guy because he did this to me in that situation. Kill this other guy because he did this to me in that situation. Settle the accounts. And there couldn't be a more starker difference between these two. It seems to me one of the reasons why for the differences and why Jewish tradition places them together is to teach us something about what it means to be a human being. When you look at the history of how humans govern themselves, you would be hard-pressed to imagine that anybody who goes into politics at the very beginning says, I want to go into politics, I want to go into leadership because I want to be corrupted and I want to become a megalomaniac. Most people, I would say almost every person, decides to go into public service because they say that the way that the leadership has become, they need to be replaced, and I'm going to do politics differently. What does every politician ultimately end up saying? We need change. But the people who before them came, they also said we need change. One of the things that the Torah portion and the Haftarah is teaching us, and the ancient rabbis put this Haftarah explicitly connected with the Torah portion, is to answer the following question. When I get into my car and I go driving, I know that it's dangerous. Driving, in fact, is one of the most dangerous things that we do on a daily basis, apart from going up and down stairs. If you don't believe me about how dangerous stairs are, after Shabbat you can Google. And yet, I'm aware of the danger. And we know that the most dangerous drivers on the road are the ones who aren't aware of how dangerous it is. But the thing about politics and power is that you become blinded to how dangerous power is to you. And you start imagining that you can in fact control the effect that the power has on you. That it's not as dangerous as you think it may be, or that you're above it. The danger inherently that politics and power places before human beings, to use the famous expression by Lord Acton, the famous English politician, that power corrupts, and it corrupts absolutely, I'm paraphrasing him. It is the idea that when power is given to other human beings, to rule over other human beings, there is a great danger, not just to the people they rule over, but here's the punchline that Judaism actually offers. The greater danger is not to the people you rule, it's to you. That the more power that you possess, and you don't need to be an elected official, my friends, to appreciate what this message has to speak to me and to you. And that is that be it money, or be it corporate power, or be it family power. I've been a rabbi for 30 years, and I have seen the effects of this in more ways than I could have possibly have imagined when I was a younger version of myself. About how parents and grandparents manipulate, about how employers manipulate, about how people with money also manipulate. That the lure and effect of power is more damaging to the person who has the power than to those that we inflict it upon. The power, of course, isn't readily seen because it is a moral kind of wound that occurs in us, that we stop being the kind of person that we imagine that we could be. You all have great imaginations of that, I'm sure. And you just need to start looking at the headlines coming either from our domestic politics, international politics, Israeli politics, to understand the dangers that power plays with people. That we look at the story of some politicians, and now I'm turning my attention to our homeland, to Israel, and looking at versions of these officials from the late 1990s, from the early 2000s. And then you look at what they are and what they say now, and they are entirely different people. There are interviews and videos, and also video clips of politicians saying things that if you place the quotes and what they were saying to each other side by side, you would be hard-pressed to imagine, if your eyes were closed, that they were the same people. And the story that King David is representing for us is that he is not the person he was at the beginning of his story. He's someone different. Which is not an argument to say that you should avoid having power in life, because if you want to make change, you got to use power. There's no other way. Judaism's message when you hold dangerous things is not to avoid them. Other religious traditions do have that. In Catholicism, there is a traditions of celibacy because they feel that the power of sex is too frightening. There are other religious traditions, for example, in Islam, to avoid alcoholic beverages because they're afraid of it. They feel it's too powerful. It could damage a person. The Jewish tradition is not that we avoid the things that are dangerous to us. The Jewish tradition is that you should be aware of the things that are dangerous and use them carefully. Use them very carefully. The French philosopher André Gide once said that the reason why we have to repeat truths over and over again is because people forget them. And that is that people who have power are not always right, but the people who have power should always wonder if they are right. Shabbat Shalom.